and welcome to the Voice of Liberty podcast. My name is Henry Conley. Thank you for tuning in. Tonight's video, I forgot to edit the title a little bit because there are a couple topics that I decided we need to add. The main topic, of course, tonight is talking about CHAZ. And some people may be kind of curious what I mean by CHAZ, because not everybody has been paying attention to what's going on in Seattle. And so I want to take some time to talk about CHAZ, talk about what's going on in Seattle, and beyond that, talk about maybe what we should learn from this as the Libertarian Party. So for anybody not knowing what CHAZ is, not knowing what is going on in Seattle currently, one of the precincts within Seattle where there's been increased police brutality towards the protesters, there has been a zone where the police backed out of. Now, little backstory, the police in Seattle have been using undue force against the protesters. Tear gas, rubber bullets, in ways that we've seen, or tactics we've seen in other cities, but in even crazier ways. The levels of police brutality have been absolutely ridiculous when it comes to attacking peaceful protesters. Over the weekend, we saw, though, the police start to back down and de-escalate and move out of the area. With that, the protesters then took their barricades and took the tools the police were using to try and barricade them and actually created their own barricade. In doing such, they have set up the CHAZ, which I just put over top of my face. The CHAZ, as I try to figure out how to point also, the CHAZ is the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. The Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, what it is it's a section of this city which has been literally taken over by the people. The Autonomous Zone currently consists of the green areas, with expansion zones into the tan areas. Now, within the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, it's been peaceful. Again, the police have been pushed out of this zone. The police have been pushed to the outskirts. The borders of this autonomous zone are guarded by armed protesters. Within the autonomous zone, there have been speakers. There have been activists talking about the fight for Black Lives Matter, about police reform. The autonomous zone has been doing so much good. Within the autonomous zone, there has been complete peace. They've set up almost what could best be compared or described as a commune. Inside of it, everybody is taken care of. Everybody is free, and everybody is peaceful. Now, within the autonomous zone, there's been a lot of people screaming that business owners haven't had access to their businesses. There's been a lot of people screaming that these people are interfering with the rights of others. But reports from within the autonomous zone keep coming out that the businesses aren't being messed with. In fact, a lot of these businesses, including one that was on Diners, Dive-Ins, and Drives, are handing out free food, attempting to help these people that are within the zone continue to operate autonomously. With the cops not there, they're free to be peaceful and be at peace and enjoy. One of the signs leading into the autonomous zone says that you are entering the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone and you are leaving the U.S. It's a huge statement. It's a massive statement. They have declared this zone, this section of Seattle, to be no longer a part of the U.S. It's revolutionary. It's radical. It's amazing. This zone, everyone's in this together. How does this relate to libertarian thought? Why am I talking about this? Well, it's simple. I have argued that we, the people, need to localize. We need to bring our government down to the local level. If not completely eradicate it at the local level. What this autonomous zone is it is a example. It's a test bed. This autonomous zone is going to show that the people do not need the police. Here's what I hope people take from this. I hope that people take from the autonomous zone being peaceful, right, and without police presence. I hope that people take from this autonomous zone being there helping each other out through mutual aid, charitable causes. I hope people realize that, wow, these things that we thought the government needed to do no longer need to be done. Now, where are we as libertarians failing at this? Here's where we're failing as libertarians. We should be setting up autonomous zones. We should be pushing. If they can do it, we can do it. We want to prove libertarian thought processes work, whether anarcho-capitalist, anarcho-syndicalist, just overall libsoc or ANCOM theory. We want to prove that what we talk about works. Here's a perfect living, breathing example. No state, no police, mutual aid and charity helping to keep everybody safe and keep everybody comfortable. Everybody living in peace, being together in the same shared idea, uniting together. That's beautiful. See, Libertarian Party, we try to be the arbiters of liberty and of freedom and of autonomy. But we try to do this sometimes in ways that are just absolutely preposterous. Now, getting elected to office, that's one way to do it. But why not set up an autonomous zone? Let's see what it does. There's an autonomous zone that's been in Greece for years. Very little police force. It's super clean. The crime rate is low. No one starves. No one goes hungry. No one has to fear for where they live. Man, these autonomous zones, man, they're pretty cool. So I just wanted to take the first part of this episode to talk about it, and to encourage the people within the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone to continue doing what they do. The Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, also sometimes known as Free Capitol Hill in some other ways. Keep it up. You guys are inspiring. There's a live stream right now on YouTube of what's going on within the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, and I'm blown away by it. Everybody just sitting together, listening, and being united. That's badass. I that's all I really have on that. So I was going to just make this a super short episode, but there's a couple other things that I think I really need to talk about here. And, of course, as everybody saw last night, I was talking about how Bubba Wallace is just continually encouraging me as a person, because he, as the lone person of color in the highest ranks of the NASCAR Cup Series, he just keeps bringing things to light. So everybody that knows NASCAR knows that NASCAR has long been a Confederate flag waving and supporting sport. The fans have lined the infields and lined the bleachers with Confederate flags. It's long been accepted as a part of the sport. It's Southern heritage. You look at some of its oldest races, and the Confederate flag was a part of the pamphlets and the brochures for it. Well, today, NASCAR came out. They banned the Confederate flag at all races. They said that it's not allowed at our races and at our tracks that we own. This is a huge statement. And of course, it threw all of the older Southern white race fan groups into chaos. You're infringing on my First Amendment rights. I am allowed to fly that flag. Yeah, Yeah, okay. Learn what the First Amendment does and doesn't cover. It doesn't cover private enterprise. See, this conversation's an interesting one because there's so many facets to it. All those people screaming that you're infringing on me. Well, no, you're not. NASCAR's a corporation. They're a company. Your rights, the Bill of Rights protects you from the federal government. It doesn't protect you from them. They can tell you what you can and cannot do in their state or in their race tracks. They can tell you what you can and cannot do in their campsites. And guess what? They just told you that you cannot fly a flag that goes against what they're trying to do. That's not infringing on your First Amendment rights. That's not infringing on any of your rights. It's just like when you go to work. There's things you can and cannot say, and you can be held accountable for them. That's just how the ball rolls. But we're seeing this at a larger scale. We're watching monuments be taken down, monuments to slavery. We're watching monuments to Confederate generals be taken down. Where am I going with this? Well, here's where I'm going. Oddly enough, it's Donald Trump. And oddly enough, it's him defending racists yet again. See, the Secretary of Defense and the Army came out and said they are considering renaming 10 of their bases, which have been named after Confederate leaders, Confederate generals. And I can't name all of these bases fully, but you got Fort Benning, Fort Hood, a couple other ones that are named after Confederate generals. And a report comes out that we're considering renaming it. We're considering looking at changing these names due to them honoring Confederate generals, the traitors, the ones that we fought against, the ones that lost. Donald Trump comes out today with a tweet. And what's this tweet say? Well, let me pull this sucker up because, man, it's a doozy. Because anytime Donald Trump has a chance to fuel his base, he's going to do it. He's going to use it, and he's going to kind of play it to the best of his ability. So today, Donald Trump puts out a 3-part tweet about this. It has been suggested that we should rename as many as 10 of our legendary military bases. Notice how he says legendary military bases there. Because for Donald Trump and his supporters, the military is everything. They're legendary. He doesn't really want to take the moment to analyze that. Such as Fort Bragg in North Carolina, Fort Hood in Texas, Fort Benning in Georgia, etc. These monumental and powerful bases have become a part of a great American heritage. I just got to pause here. These monumental and very powerful bases. Again, this is his need to exert power and dominance and grandeur because he feels so little about himself that this is what he needs to feel better. Beyond that, he ignites his base by saying, look at how great our bases are. They're fucking great. They're monumental. They're legendary. I'm not sure how they're monumental or legendary. But he takes it a step further and says, and have become a part of a great American heritage. These bases are named after Confederate generals. Where is the American heritage in this? It makes no sense. To try and claim that bases named after Confederate generals are somehow a part of American heritage makes zero sense. It's a part of Confederate heritage. It's a part of the losing side of the Civil War's heritage. It's not a part of the American heritage. That makes absolutely no sense until you look at it through the eyes of a Trump supporter. Because in the eyes of a Trump supporter, that is heritage. Remember, they claim the Confederate flag to be heritage. They claim the Confederate flag to be representative of their heritage. It's not a flag of hate. Nah, that's the rebel flag. It's part of history. Yeah, okay. And a history of winning, victory, and freedom. I'm not sure how these bases have any history of winning, victory, or freedom. The bases are named after people that lost the Civil War. The bases aren't a part of winning. And last I checked, the military has not defended our freedom since the Revolutionary War. So I'm a little confused how they're a part of winning, victory, and freedom. But of course, this is, again, you're talking about Trump, who's reaching out to his base. They think that the Iraq War is for freedom. They think that Afghanistan was for freedom. They thought Vietnam and Korea were a part of a fight for freedom. They don't see it like that. They don't see it any way else than that. Of course, these bases are also a part of that tough, brutal military that they want. Because Trump said, we need a strong military. Well, if Trump said it, it must be right. And the United States of America trained and deployed our heroes on these hallowed grounds. Last I checked, they deploy our heroes on these bases, and I don't know how they're hallowed grounds. Again, this is all pandering to his base. I'm really trying to get towards something really important here that really just strikes me. Therefore, my administration will not even consider the renaming of these magnificent and fabled military installations. These bases named after Confederate generals are magnificent and fabled? I'm sorry, have you ever been on a military base? I used to go on them all the time. Growing up, I'd go on an Air Force base to go shop at the PX, at the commissary. It's not magnificent. Quite frankly, our military lives in pretty shitty conditions. And to even try and claim that they're fabled is crazy, because boot camps serve as nothing more than an indoctrination camp. They're a place to indoctrinate soldiers to think not as an individual, but as a group, and to be told that they are learning how to fight for freedom and to defend freedom. Now, this is not an attack on the military members, because quite frankly, they have no control here. Unfortunately, the system that we've been brought up in teaches you that that is a prestigious, patriotic thing to do. What we're talking about here is the system that does this. These military installations, they indoctrinate soldiers to think that going overseas and fighting in a foreign country that has not touched us is patriotic and a piece of grandeur. It's not. How could it ever be? And still, I go back. How could bases that are named after Confederate generals be magnificent and fabled? It just doesn't make any sense. But the biggest part, of course, here we go. This is the typical Donald Trump pandering to his base. Our history as the greatest nation in the world will not be tampered with. Respect our military. Our history of being the greatest nation in the world will not be tampered with. Because to Trump supporters, to his base, and quite frankly to Trump, we are the greatest nation in the world. Quite frankly, we are unbelievable. We're the best. We're the freest. Ignore the fact that there's 20-something countries below us that are above us that have more freedom. Our free press ratings are absolute shit, and they've gone down since Donald Trump took office. Ignore the fact that our freedoms as people have gone down since this fascist tyrant has taken office. Ignore the fact that he has deployed the military against the American people. Ignore the fact that he is talking about increasing the police force and increasing the powers they have. Ignore the fact that he doesn't know what fucking freedom is. His people don't see it. And he plays them by saying this. And then he tops it off with the cherry. Respect our military. Says the guy who faked bone spurs to avoid deployment. Says the guy who never referenced the military, never talked about them, never talked about the veterans, none of that stuff prior to him deciding to run on the Republican ticket. Ignore the fact that this guy has done absolutely jack shit in comparison to living somewhat with boots on your feet. Trump is playing his base here. But the problem is, this 3-part tweet, not only is it playing his base, it ignites something that should not be ignited. It ignites nationalism. It ignites very dangerous nationalism. You see, nationalism has been a part of Trump's rhetoric. Strong military is a part of nationalism. Ignoring racist history is a part of nationalism. Claiming heritage is a part of nationalism. We're in the midst of a fight against nationalism. We're in the midst of a fight for true freedom. Trump, his goal is to be a fascist, nationalist dictator. He'll do anything he can. So, what are the takeaways from tonight's video? 1, check out the CHAZ. It's pretty freaking cool. And we as libertarians should probably start thinking about how we can set up autonomous zones and how we can use those autonomous zones to prove the theory of libertarian thought. Whether it's an autonomous zone where libertarian socialism is practiced, you'll find me there. Whether it's an autonomous zone where anarcho-capitalism is tested and put to the test and proven, you'll find many there. Whether it's an autonomous zone where anarcho-communists test their theories, that's also a possibility. Tearing down Confederate monuments. It's a way to move this country forward. It's a way to fix it. It's a way to start healing. Because these monuments have served as a way to continually harm people in this country. And finally, renaming military bases and Trump's continued fight for nationalism. Folks, we cannot survive another 4 years of Trump. We also can't survive 4 years of Biden. There's got to be a better way forward, people. Like, there has to be. It's time to start thinking third party. It's time to start making a fix. Anyway, I'll catch you guys tomorrow night, 9 o'clock Eastern. I'll have some other random crap to talk about. And thank you guys for tuning in. As for just a couple quick shameless plugs, of course, you can find our merch at our Teespring store, teespring.com/stores/voice of liberty. And as always, awaken the voice of liberty.